Who was the first band that you fell in love with?
The Eagles.
Nice. I was not expecting that, but cool. So it's Jaguar Shoes, Shortwaves with me, George Godfrey, and today, talking to your man, it's Jack from Kapichi. How's it going?
Yeah, man, it's your man, Jack from Kapichi. It's all good. How you doing, man?
How's the last couple of months been for you and the rest of the guys of the band?
We've just kind of been doing as much as we can, you know, writing the album and everything. So that's been the main thing. So we've really... it's not been a blessing in disguise at all in any way, but we've been able to really put a lot more time and energy into something that we would have been rushed to do otherwise. Yeah. So we're just trying to look at the positives as much as possible.
I did want to ask, because you put a few tunes out in 2020, most recently Working Man's Town. What's the story behind that tune? Because I mean, it's another banger.
We're from Hastings, you know, we make it quite clear that we're really proud of our hometown. Small seaside town on the southeast of England, and it's basically just about that. But it's not just about Hastings, it's not solely about Hastings, it's about many like forgotten towns, seaside towns, you know, anywhere, like working towns where people still struggle every day to kind of make ends meet. And it's kind of like a sort of homage to those people, those sort of strong people that have stayed here once all the money and the tourism has gone.
I mean, it kind of came at perfect time, because it has been, you know, so difficult for those towns because of tourism. You know, they couldn't have hotels open, they couldn't have bars and restaurants, and then it's kind of gone full circle, because that's where people are flooding to now, because it's the return of the Great British Holiday, right?
The staycation. Yeah, exactly. Very true, yeah.
It's got that kind of, I'm going to call it the signature Kapichi sound, and it's one that I always recognise in your tunes. Is it you or Ben on the guitar doing that? And is it like, I saw on your Instagram, like it's a big secret, you won't let anyone know what exactly is going on?
Yeah. So that is Ben's guitar tone, and he did write that. He wrote that lick.
I mean, obviously there is that guitar tone, but there's an overall sound to your music, I think. And like, was that difficult to get to? Was there a long process?
100%. We've been around as a band playing music with each other for a long time in one way or another. That was one thing we always actually really struggled with, was trying to get our sound. And it's that fine line between inspiration and plagiarism, I guess. And I feel like we finally kind of got on the right side. So whenever you say like, the signature guitar sound and things like that, that's exactly what we want to hear. Like that makes us really happy to hear that, because that's exactly what we've fought really hard to get.
You first came onto my radar when 2019 came out. Before that, what sort of things were you doing musically? Were you playing together?
The way the band started was I had to do something for uni or something. I dropped out after like 6 weeks, so that didn't really work out that well. But I went to do this like music project for uni, and I just knew Ben. I'd met him not that long ago, and so we got together, started doing that, and then we were like, oh, okay, actually, I'm quite enjoying this. I never wanted to do music at the beginning of all of this, and then like I did my first gig, and that was it. I was just like, okay, well, I'm screwed now, because that's the only thing I get enjoyment out of.
How did that gig go? Because the early ones particularly, that's where you hear stories of shockers and things going wrong. Like, was it plain sailing?
No, it went really well. I wore a suit.
Okay.
It was like a mod night or something in Hastings, and I used to like be kind of into that. So I wore like a suit, and we just played covers.
What kind of covers were you playing?
Oh man.
Come on.
It was like we did Chuck Berry. We did Arctic Monkeys, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think we did like the Jam and stuff like that. It was like the most like pubs covers band you could ever be.
I hope this is still like in quite a heavy style.
Yeah, it was like it was definitely heavier than
the originals.
Yeah. But it was fun. It was like my first sort of soiree into that sort of thing, and was just like I was just an addict since then.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Are there any recordings of this knocking about, or is that?
There is actually one, but
Yeah.
it will not see the light of day. No, not whilst I'm standing.
You know, you don't ask, you don't get. Now, I did want to ask about gigs, because it's almost exactly a year ago since you came to the Victoria and played my night, Alt Disco.
Yeah.
That was a sweaty one. That's still the only one where we've had a stage invasion. I did
So
want to ask,
good.
though, what are your memories of that night, but also that venue?
You know what? I've got such a bad memory, but that is one of the only London venues that we played that actually sticks in my mind. I love that. I genuinely, not just saying it, really like that place. I've never had a bad gig there. Wasn't Miles Kane there that night?
Miles Kane was in, because he was there to have a little look at Buzzard. Yeah. And then he was around. I saw him. His head was going.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So that was cool. So that was one of my memories. Obviously, the stage invasion was quite a big one. I love it. It's such a cool venue. It's just such a cool part of town as well, and everyone who goes there seems to be like, everyone just gets on. It's such a good vibe, and it's a good stage. It's a great sound system. It's like you can't really beat it, that size venue with that sound system, that stage, that shaped room.
Yeah.
It's just ticks all the boxes, really, doesn't it? But that was a good night. As much as I can't remember it because I definitely had a few drinks.
Oh, we all did. I think when I came on to like introduce you guys, I just shouted it. I didn't even need the mic. I just belting it down. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that was good. And then the stage invasion at the end as well. I can't believe I thought all my stuff was just going to get trashed, but somehow
I was so nervous.
Good fans,
for you.
They were careful. When you finish a gig and something like that happens, you just don't look at it, pack it all away, and then the next morning you're like, and it was all good. So good fans at the Victoria.
These are the venues, I mean, the whole music industry itself struggling with what's going on with COVID, but it's these venues that are really sort of taking the hit. A lot of them are closing down up and down the country. How important do you find these 100, 200 cap spots for not only like you as a band to develop your thing, but also to go out and just spot new bands that you might want to work with?
I genuinely think they're more important than the bigger venues. Without them, we don't have the bigger venues. Without them, we don't have anyone getting to that point. And I also think when you're coming up through the ranks as a band, that is a place where you will spend a lot of time. It's not something where you do like, you spend a couple of months maybe playing like 50 capacity sort of in the pub or something. When you get to that 100, 200 capacity venue, you are going to be there for a long time. And that's really where you sort of make your name. And like you said as well, for going to see bands as well, that's honestly, it's been worse not being able to see bands than it has been not being able to play. Like, they've both been horrible, but not being able to just go out on a Friday, Saturday and just go and watch bands as well. Yeah. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. And it's things like, Miles Kane was there, for Christ's sake. They're the nights you remember more than being at like Wembley or something like that. They're the nights that go down in the history book. So it's worrying times.
Well, yeah, it's definitely important, especially for you guys, because you've got your big sexy tour booked in for next year. The Kapichi rise is still on, like you're working your way through bigger venues. You've got there by playing these smaller shows, playing across Europe. What's been kind of the highlight of all that up until now in terms of like, okay, I feel like we're making it?
I can't really put my finger on what it was, but it was something in 2019 that just from the beginning to the end felt like a whole sort of whirlwind of everything coming together. But I think if we had to put, it's got to be the Frank Carter thing, because not only for us, like, he's like someone we've always had mad respect for. It's just, it opened so many doors for us. We like inherited his fan base, and I've never met like a fan base that's more sort of loyal and interested and caring and involved. So that's probably the highlight. But there was, just touring in general is always a highlight. Doing gigs like we did with you, like they're the ones you remember. Like I love all of that stuff.
You mentioned that 2019 was where everything kind of fell into place. Did you plan a lot of that year, like way in advance, like all your releases, and sort of strategize, like, okay, we're going to play these shows in this period and then put these songs? Or was it more like you got the ball rolling and then just things started happening? Yeah,
I would say it's in between, but leaning more towards just fluking it.
Right.
It was like, we did have a plan. We had 2019, which was coming out in the beginning of 2019, and we were just like, let's see what happens. We'd never really dipped our toe in the radio pool sort of thing, and we were just like, who knows? And it got played, and it went down really well. And then off the back of that, this happened, like Made of Ale, and then we brought out Glitterati. We had them two songs, basically, Glitterati and 2019. So it was a bit of both. We had a bit of a plan, but also we kind of just, these things kind of snowball once one good thing happens, I guess.
I think it's interesting to hear, because you kind of see some bands, they get too tied up in the idea of the routine and planning and having everything laid out like that, and then you get some bands who go the other way. So just kind of hear from your experience how it's gone. I think that'll be quite helpful.
Well, you need to have a plan, but also understand that plans change. For example, like we don't even know what our next single is at the moment. We've got like 4, and we're just like we don't even know. So there's a plan in place and there's a structure, but God knows like the actual finer details. And I think that's how it's worked for us. Just kind of judge it as we go along.
I mean, off the back of that, you said there you don't know what the next single is going to be. You sat on these tunes. How's the progress been writing towards the album? Because you mentioned it before, you've used the time away from being able to play live to focus on that. Has it been the case that maybe you felt like you had the album done and you had the songs and it was like, that's what we're going to do, and now you've gone back and just gone, no, like this is
100%. Yeah, that's literally what I was going to say. I was like, it's been really good, but it's definitely taken longer because of exactly what you just said. We were like, right, the album's done. Like March time, we were kind of like, the album's done. It was going to be like a September release, and we were doing gigs and being like, yeah, the album's coming out this year. And then obviously everything happened and we had all this extra time. And what I would say that like probably maybe 5 or 6 of the songs that were going to be on the album have been replaced. Like as in,
many is that,
the album that was done. All that wasn't done was the recording process wasn't completed. But I would say that probably half of the songs that would have been on the album if this hadn't happened are no longer on the album, and they've been replaced. And we've still been doing that up until about 2 weeks ago, to the point that we've gone, stop writing now, because every time we write, we're just like, this has to be on there. And it's like, you'll get this with bands where like they always think the newest song they wrote is the best song they've written. But it actually has been a case of like the newest, like everyone involved has been like, that has to be on the album. So it's just been like trying to work out which one to take off and everything. But yeah, it's like the album is now, we have one more recording session to go, and then we're done. It's done. And the songs are picked, they're done. Like 90% of them are done and recorded, and there's a couple of others that we just got to record, but the album track list is done.
I feel like I'm going to need that in writing, Jack. Like,
I know.
So live music, as we know, it's all up in the air at the minute, and personally I don't know how we're going to get back to where things were. We've talked a little bit about it there. It's an absolute minefield. I just wanted to know, like, where are you at with it? How are you like mentally feeling? Like, do you see like a clear vision of not when but how we could get back to it?
No, it's a really good question, and it's one that I like literally keeps literally, as cliche as it is, keeps me up at night, because this whole tour we're doing now in Feb and March, fingers crossed. That was meant to be in August and October and stuff. So when it got moved, I thought, well, that's fine. That's literally a year later. We're going to be fine. And now, as we're getting closer and closer and closer, I mean, I still think the tour will happen in one way or another, unless something drastic happens that means it can't. But I mean, on our end, it's going to happen. But I don't know. I don't know how you get back to it. I guess it's going to be a case of this whole socially distancing at gigs. But then gigging is also one of them things that's, especially at this level, is like you don't really make any money. So how are you going to make money when you're doing say you're doing Scala and it's like 8 to 1,000, and then you can only have 400 people in there or something? It's just not viable.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I mean, obviously as the band, it's your livelihood to play live, but for these venues as well, they can't necessarily afford to operate at half capacity because there's all their stuff. So I really don't know. It's
unless the backlash falls onto the person paying for tickets, and we don't want that to happen either.
Sure.
So it's either the venue, the band, or the people coming to watch the music are gonna struggle, and and also that's just talking about financially, like atmosphere and stuff. It's like it's just gonna be weird.
Yeah, I was going to ask because especially at a gig with the music that you guys play and the kind of environment that comes with that. Could you see socially distanced, like people sat at tables?
It'll be socially distanced for the first song, and then everyone will just be the tables will be like. So it's just I don't understand how it can be controlled, really.
I've got one last set of questions for you before I let you go. We've been doing this thing. It's the Jaguar Shoes Pin-up. It's all quick fire, so don't think too much about it. I'm just going to hit you with some questions. First thing that comes into your head. Who was the first band that you fell in love with?
The Eagles.
Nice. I was not expecting that, but cool. Who was the last band you fell in love with?
Sorry.
Nice as well. What was your first gig?
The Eagles.
Was it actually?
Yeah, my dad took me to the Eagles at Twickenham Stadium.
Oh, sick,
it was wicked.
What was your last gig?
Maybe Queens of Stone Age, maybe, or Frank Carter. I've seen him a lot.
Yeah. Tour van essential item.
Pillows, speakers, and baby wipes.
Nice. And lastly, for the uninitiated, for those who don't know Kid Kapichi, what is the song that they should start with?
Working Man's Town.
Easy. Jack, thanks so much for talking to me today, man. I look forward to hearing this album when it's ready.
Amazing, man. Thanks for having me, and let's hope for another one of those gigs soon, man. Because that's it. Fingers crossed. No, thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Legend. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you soon.
Nice one, mate.
You can catch up with more shortwaves at jaguarshoes.com/radio, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram. We're at Shortwaves Radio and Victoria Dalston.